Hello, welcome back. We are four struggling filmmakers. My name's Emma. Joining me is Jimmy.
Hello.
James.
Hello.
And Noah.
Hello.
Do we have any film recommendations or news?
Yes, me back at it again with another recommendation. So as part of my alphabet month, I'm watching a film for every letter of the alphabet. I watched Dogville the other day by Lars von Trier. It was unlike anything I've ever seen before. I mean that in a good way, because it's a film which shows that how you tell a story is a lot more important than what you use to tell it. It felt like a film, a series, a novel, an audiobook. It was just like everything in one, and it was all the acting was fantastic. Like you got Paul Bettany, you got Nicole Kidman, you got James Caan right at the end, and he just like steals almost the entire film. And yeah, if you haven't seen it, go in blind. It's a bit long, but it's all chopped up into chapters, so you kind of know how long you have left as you go through. And yeah, definitely check it out, because it is one that you won't regret watching.
I watched Hellraiser, which I've never seen before. Clive Barker's Hellraiser. And I watched The Exorcist 3. Two really good horrors. Everyone needs to see them. I really liked Hellraiser, and I've always seen Pinhead. I saw him when I was younger, and it's always been etched into my mind, that guy. And finally got to see him, and he's barely in the film.
Yeah.
And then Exorcist 3 is really good. It's quite crazy, really pure horror. Is it better than the first one?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe in terms of horror, it is.
This week, as you might know, as you should know, is International Women's Week. So we thought we'd celebrate by each picking either a film, director, cinematographer, anything to do with women in film, and then we would display them for you this week. So we have a couple of different picks, and it should be an exciting week and a brilliant celebration of all things women in film.
So my pick for this week, I'm going to be talking about a pretty easy watch. It's currently on Netflix in the UK, so it's pretty easily accessible as well. It's a film called Booksmart. It's directed by actress Olivia Wilde. So a directorial debut. And I only found out this like today, but it had like 4 different screenwriters. But it actually ended up okay. It's a very similar film to Superbad. If you've seen Superbad, it's kind of got that whole high school going to a party vibe. But this film is quite interesting because the characters start off as quite unlikable, and then you see them, and the whole plot basically revolves around them feeling like they've wasted their college experience because they were so hyper focused on, wanting to get into the good colleges. And then the main character, Molly, she goes around being like, I'm going to get into the best college. And then they're all like, oh yeah, we got into that college too. And she's like, seriously? And she basically, the whole film is her and a friend, Amy, deciding to take the last day before graduation to go to the best party in town. Along with the similarities to Superbad, the main character is played by Beanie Feldstein, and she is Jonah Hill's sister. They're very, very different vibes in the way they portray their characters, but they are both very funny in their own respective films. Yeah, what I like about this film is it's unabashedly positive. Like, there's the negative bits work because they're dramatic and they feel in sense with the story. They're actually quite poignant at points, but a lot of the comedy comes from the fact that they're aggressively complimenting each other constantly and being like, "You're awesome. No, you're fucking awesome," and it's just really cute and funny. Another thing I like is all of the side characters are memorable in their own way. Like, I might not remember their specific names, but I remember the scenes of every single character's like clique, basically, just involved in the film. Some standouts, you've got Jared. He's like a wealthy guy. He's sort of like, oh yeah, it's lit, fam. And he's like probably the most uncool person. And he gets like a boat party that they end up going to, and no one's there except him. And it is quite sad. A lot of the characters have just a hidden layer underneath that didn't necessarily need to be there, but the fact that it's there adds a lot to their character. The best character of the film, and if you know the film, you probably know, there's a character called Gigi, who basically is drugged up the entire film and just miraculously teleports at every point where the main characters are with no explanation. She just appears and it's just like, hey guys, and you're like, what, how did you get here? And it's just never explained, and it's so funny every time because the character her first introduction's sort of like, oh no, this character could be very annoying, but she ends up being hilarious, and I just really liked her character. The drama of the film, as I said, works quite well because it's in line with what the characters want. Because Molly's whole goal is to not be seen as the pretentious girl she has been throughout the entirety of school, and she kind of achieves that in her own way by the end. But I feel like the best story in the film is Amy, who's the other girl, and her goal is to ask out a girl that she likes, and it's all about basically exploring yourself and who you want to be going forward in life, and it's done very maturely, especially for like a very gross out kind of, party high school film as it is. For like directorial debut, Olivia Wilde does definitely have some voice. Like there's, you can definitely see going forward that's like she's a director to keep an eye on, because I think she's going to do a lot of really good stuff. But the strength of this film was definitely the comedy, and there was some good directing moments in this, like where they go underneath the pool, and that's done very well. But I feel like in future she's going to do something that will really wow us, and I'm really looking forward to that. That being said, not everything in this film works. I feel like there's a lot of jokes that don't necessarily land the way they hope. Specifically for me, there's a bit where they do like a drug trip scene, and it's so out of place and weird that I just didn't find it funny. And also I feel like the ending's quite abrupt. It just sort of like, there's this big moment of like, how are they going to get out of this? And it's like, oh, that happens, and then they go. And it's almost like it wasn't even needed in the film. Just to round it off, or if you guys have any other points, because I know Jimmy's seen it. It's a very simple, sweet watch that will make you feel good by the end of it, and it will definitely make you laugh at least at some points.
It's a rare example of a comedy that handles the drama very well, I think, particularly is it Amy? Yes. Her story is probably more compelling than Beanie Feldstein's. I haven't seen it since the cinema, but there's a particular scene, without spoiling it, between her and the girl she likes later on. Could have been played just for laughs, but it is actually played pretty straight, from what I remember. And it does come across as genuine and heartfelt. And I think that's a testament to Olivia Wilde's directing ability, particularly on debut, to flick between the drama and the comedy and not have the bathos effect of it just being complete mood whiplash and being funny when it shouldn't be. She does actually handle it very well, and it does come across, like I say, when you said cute earlier, I think that's a really good summation of this film. It is really cute, and it doesn't feel false. And it's a testament to the actors and the actresses, but also to Olivia Wilde, I think.
Reminds me a bit of Lady Bird, James. Would I be right in that assumption?
Yeah, it's definitely got that similar sort of vibe. I feel like Lady Bird handles the drama a bit better than Booksmart does, but Booksmart has like a nice marrying of both the comedy and the drama equally enough to be, a bit more fun, basically.
Yeah, they're very different tonally. I mean, Booksmart is, at the end of the day, a proper comedy, whereas Lady Bird has funny moments, but is essentially quite a hard-hitting drama, isn't it?
So yeah, to summarise on Booksmart, it's an easy watch. It's readily available, and it's a nice comedy with some good dramatic moments in it. And I think it's got that wide appeal that anyone can watch it and get something out of it.
Nice. Well, unfortunately, we're moving from quite a cheery, happy comedy to quite the opposite. So the film I've picked this week has a lot of women involved, so I'm going to break it down a little bit. But we're going to look at the director first. So the film I've chosen is directed by Lynne Ramsay. She is a Scottish film director, writer, producer, and cinematographer. Ramsay's films are marked by children and like young adults and the way through their lives, and it has a real fascination with certain themes, and her films really follow like grief, death, and then quite interestingly the aftermath of things. Instead of in the moment, it's the after, which is something that's definitely with we need to talk about Kevin. You don't really join in the moment, you join after the events have happened, and you learn a bit more as you go on, which is really interesting storytelling technique. If you don't know, We Need to Talk About Kevin is a psychological thriller drama. The screenplay was adapted from a 2000 novel of the same name. So it's not an original piece, but it's original in some of the themes it has and the way it goes about them. So it's, as I said earlier, it's got a lot of women involved. So it's produced by Jennifer Fox, which I don't know if you guys know Jennifer Fox well, but she's an American producer. But you will know this next one. So it stars Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton, I believe her character's name is Eva. She stars as Kevin's mother. She's struggling to come to terms with her son and the horrors that he's committed, which I won't spoil, but there's lots of different things that he does that leads to a overarching, like, unspeakable thing that she has to sort of deal with. Basically, she absolutely loathes her child, and she's supposed to love this child, but she just can't because of these things. And she has another child which she absolutely loves, and then there's this jealousy, and it's a really interesting take on the family dynamic, because her husband, who's played by John C. Reilly, just doesn't understand Tilda Swinton's opinions on the child, because the child just is an angel around her husband and a devil around her, and he just doesn't believe her. And there's this strain in the marriage. This whole mother-son dynamic is completely wrong. And it's such an interesting take on the story, and it's, yeah, I've watched it several times now, and each time I cry at the ending every time. It's emotional, it draws me in, and even though I know the ending, I'm always shocked, because I just think the rewatch value of that film is immense, because it's one of those films is the more you watch, the smaller things you pick up on. So there's lots of little things, but there's also lots of smaller things, and as you watch, you start to see the other things, and it sort of changes the meaning each time. And yeah, I absolutely love it.
It sounds like a tough watch.
Yeah, it definitely is one that you need to sort of sit down and prepare yourself, because I don't know if you guys know the premise of the thing, but it's quite a tough subject matter, especially depending on where you live location wise.
I've not seen it, but it sounds like in a lot of ways it explores a similar sort of relationship to like the Babadook.
Yeah, it does. So in the Babadook, the monster is like physical, whereas within this, it's more in everyday life. It's not visible. It's not something tangible. You can't touch it like you can in the Babadook, but it's nonetheless still there. And I think you're right to make that comparison. It's very similar in like tonal and thematic ways.
I have seen Lim Ramsey's popular short film Gas Man, which and going off that, she is definitely interested in family and family dynamics, and generally not the perfect nuclear family dynamic.
Definitely.
I don't know her background. I have a feeling it might not have been all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, you definitely get that vibe, don't you?
Yeah, I think she has come from quite a tough background. I wonder whether that influences her films too, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's all got to, hasn't it, really? But yeah, no, We Need to Talk About Kevin, I thought was a perfect, although it's not a cheery film, I thought it was perfect to talk about this week because of how many women are involved in this film. And the film is like, looks good and it did well. And so I thought, yeah, what a good thing to talk about this week.
Well, thank you, Emma. Very stimulating discussion there. We're going to jump back a little while, about 80 years, in fact. I'm going to talk about a film that is culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant because of when it came out, where it came out, and what happened just after it came out. And I'm going to talk about a film called Babyface, starring Barbara Stanwyck, who is one of my favourite actresses. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Multi-Oscar nominee, I think winner as well. I couldn't tell you what for right now. Famous for roles such as Phyllis, I think her name's Phyllis Diller in Double Indemnity. That's her most famous role.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and this is a very important film because it came out just before the Hollywood Production Code, the Hays Code, as it came out. And it really helped influence that code coming in, basically, because it was a very shocking film for the time. the plot of Babyface you'd expect to come out from a film now. You wouldn't expect it from the 1930s. But basically, it deals with a young woman called Lily Powers who can't be older than 20. And at the start, we find her, she works with her father who owns a little speakeasy. I think it's set in the 20s. And since she was about 14, it's heavily implied, if not explicitly stated, that her father has basically been, I was going to say pimping her out, but for International Women's Day, probably not the best expression, but he's been making her sleep with patrons for money, which is really horrible. But it's amazing that this subject matter comes up in a film from the 1930s. You know, you wouldn't expect this to be a part of a film pre sort of about 1970 at least, I would say, when the production code finally ended and we got the new Hollywood movement. But anyway, so early on in the film, minor spoiler, but it happens within the first 15 minutes. As far as I'm concerned, it's fair game. Her dad's illegal distillery, where he's brewing some moonshine, blows up and kills him. The only person who's ever basically been a man and friends with Lily is this old cobbler. Tells her that, look, you've been taken advantage of your whole life, but the fact is that you do have power that you probably don't even know about. It's sad that the film relies on a man to tell her this. It kind of takes away a bit of the power, but, well, hey, it's 1933. And she realises, yeah, you're right, I am a beautiful woman, and I do have power, and I've got power over men. So she and Chica decide to go to the big city, which I think is New York, it might be Chicago. She gets very far. She gets to the top, in fact. She basically uses her feminine powers over men, including John Wayne in one of his first film roles, to get to the top. And along the way, the ending of this film's weak, sadly. She basically really does fall in love with a man in the end. And she gives up her financial wealth that she's earned. I'm just spoiling it now, but she gives up her financial wealth that she's earned to potentially save his life because he gets really ill. I would say, from a gender politics point of view, a very different film for the time. Like I said, you in American Hollywood cinema, you would not have a film that deals with any of the themes this film deals with. It's very frank and very open in its discussion of sex and sexuality. It's not a romantic film in sort of any sort of way. It's very frank with how it deals with it. Sex is used as a tool, but it's refreshing to see a woman using it. We have so many films, like James Bond is built on Bond using his powers, whatever you want to call it, his handsomeness to bed women for gain. And this film flips that. It's got a cracking soundtrack based on the 1920s Jan Harlan song Babyface. There you go. Barbara Stanwyck. What can you say about Barbara Stanwyck? How old was she when this film came out? She would have been 26, we've decided, when this film came out. Was by no means her first film. She'd been acting since the late 20s, I believe. And she's an absolute powerhouse. Her presence is commanding. Her character is forceful. Her screen presence is undeniable. You can't talk about this film, I think, without talking about the impact that sort of looks has on it. It's part of her screen presence. She is captivating to the camera without trying to fall into the trap of the male gaze. I think she does just have this undeniable elegance and basically beauty. It's hard to watch the film without falling in love with her a little bit. Such is the power of her performance and her character. But yeah, such a strong female character and such a strong female woman in real life, as most women are female women, but there you go. Force of nature. I think this really launched her career. At the time, not critically well received at all, the film. People thought it was shocking. They thought it was condemnable. Got edited. But yeah, I think a really, really powerful, really striking, ahead of its time film.
Yeah, so basically, the cobbler, I've forgotten his name or whether he hasn't had a name, but I actually have the exact quote written down that he says to Barbara Stanwyck's character. So he goes, exploit men, use men to get the things you want. And that, I think that's a brilliant way to describe the film. It's so daring. And you were talking about the Hays Code, and that this film is basically credited as one of the films why they had to bring the production code in, because they were like, oh my God, imagine if a woman sees this and thinks she can do all this. But it's like such a celebration of women's sort of sexuality and being sexual and it not being a bad thing. And for that time, amazing. Like so forward in its thinking. And then we have this like decade of women need to be put in their place as housewives. That's like
Yeah,
such a damaging image.
it's incredible, isn't it? How much it changed from the Hays Code. The Hays Code, in many ways, it's like the worst thing that's ever happened to cinema. In
Yeah.
many ways, it gave us a lot of good things because filmmakers found ways around it, but it certainly hindered the presentation of women.
Fun.
It's amazing. I mean, that quote also that you said from the cobbler, he references Nietzsche in it. That Nietzsche's always controversial, but I think in that same quote you're talking about, he talks about how Nietzsche said that all life is exploitation.
Yeah.
And that exactly like that gives you the thematic basis for the film. Is that everything in that film is a barter, is a deal, and a business transaction, and it's kind of the same things, but with same themes, but with a feminist twist that like The Wolf of Wall Street was dealing with, just in the last years. It's so forward thinking. It's incredible. And also, while we're talking about the production code and Barbara Stanwyck, interesting to note, a few years before this, Barbara Stanwyck was in a film called Night Nurse, which is one of Clark Gable's first films too. Later went on to do Gone with the Wind, of course. And there's a scene in that which also helped bring in the Hollywood Code. So Barbara Stanwyck probably had a massive impact on Hollywood, where she's in bed with another nurse in her 90, well, not even that, like just lingerie basically, which you would not have seen 2 years later, 3 years later. Barbara Stanwyck. I don't think honestly, I think classical acting and classical actors and actresses, you just don't get performances like that anymore. Acting has fundamentally changed. This is a different style of acting. This is performance rather than replication of real life. This is very much more like theatre stuff.
Yeah.
And I miss it. In all honesty, I think it has something special that films are missing now. But if you haven't seen Babyface, watch Baby.
All right, Jimmy, thank you for that. Now I've gone for something a bit different. I've gone for something that might be a bit of a left field decision. So you've gone with actresses, directors. I've actually gone with an editor. I'm going to talk about her work on a film called Raging Bull. Now, Raging Bull, directed by Scorsese, stars Robert De Niro, written by Paul Schrader. I'm not talking about any of them, obviously. I'm talking about Thelma Schoonmaker. And there she is with Mr. Martin Scorsese there. I'll block out Martin because we're talking about this lady. So she's been an editor and she's worked with Scorsese for well over about 50 years. They first met at New York University, where they were both obviously students. She has done other non-Scorsese work. She did the Woodstock documentary way back in the day. And I also found out she did the Snowman, which is a bit random. That film that came out a couple of years back. She got nominated. She's been nominated for the most amount of times actually as an editor, tied with Michael Kahn, who I believe, or Can, I think he's done basically all of the Spielberg films. So she's won for Raging Bull, which is the one I'm going to have a bit of a chat about. She's also won for The Aviator, which was a decent film, and The Departed. So she's good. She knows her stuff. So with Raging Bull, it's actually considered by some corners to be one of the best edited films ever. And the movie's about Jake LaMotta. He was a middleweight boxer of the 1940s. It's about his in-ring sort of stuff, but it's mainly about his behavior, his life outside of it, which was, he was quite a jealous and angry man. He wasn't a very pleasant man. It's basically like a self-destructive biopic of him. We get to see Robert De Niro in the role. He put on a lot of weight for this, I believe. He had to, even like the fat bit at the end of the film, which probably not the best way of putting it, but when you see him at the end, I think that's all real. So he really went for this. He won the Oscar for this as well. I like the editing of the boxing scenes in this. I think they're incredible, really. I'm going to break down the second boxing match between Sugar Ray Robertson and Jake LaMotta. It's often considered like a very incredible piece of editing. So it's like the 9th round, something like that. Comes out, Sugar Ray Robertson's punching LaMotta, lots of quick, rapid cuts. We really get a sense that LaMotta is not in the best place in this fight. And then it all slows down, it all sort of comes to almost a complete standstill, like a hush. And then we get these sort of 2 shots of both of them. And we get this amazing dolly zoom of Sugar Ray Robertson with the mist coming up. And they hear this, just as he's about to punch, we can hear that sort of like animal like growl, and then it's just this repeated punches that are so violent, like the blood splattering everywhere, and these cuts that are just incredible. There's even, I think if you slow it down, there's a cut of when Sugar Ray's punching with his left, but then it cuts and it's like Robert De Niro's getting hit with the right, like it's so disorientating. There's a 180-degree angle is completely eradicated as well. It's just manic. It's just completely like, you're completely like aghast at like just how much of a beating he's taking with like the bulbs flashing and the sounds. It's just amazing orchestrated scene. There's some of the non-boxing scenes are really well done as well. You've got lots of like scenes where he's sort of talking to his wife Vicky, and he's saying, "Do you think of other men?" And it's like complete silent, and it will hard cut to him to like taking punches in the ring. I will say, obviously, it's International Women's Day. The film does deal with sort of a man's sort of gaze of a woman, and it's not a very pleasant view. But I just want to point out that this is the man. This was what he was like as a person. Wasn't a very pleasant person at all. The film isn't glorifying it, of course, but just thought I'd let everyone know.
I have so much to say about Raging Bull, and
Okay,
especially the editing.
go on.
I knew you were going to focus on Thelma, so I have a lot of notes. So bear with me. First of all, like Thelma Schoonmaker, what an amazing career she has. Like every Scorsese film after Raging Bull she's edited. So like you can't deny she's amazing. And you mentioned all the Oscar noms and the wins she's had. What a wonderful woman, like amazing stuff. With Raging Bull in particular, it really uses this Soviet like era editing that was made popular by Sergei, who called it collision editing, and it's supposed to be jarring. The film doesn't just do that within scenes, it does it throughout the whole film. Like each scene is a collision edit. It's supposed to make you feel something. It's not supposed to make sense. And that's why the breaking of the 180 rule, the breaking of continuity works in this film, because you're supposed to not be able to logically put things together. And that's why it's so brilliant. And I just think, what an amazing piece of work. When this film came out, there was a wealth of like boxing films from my understanding.
After
but Scorsese, Scorsese wanted to do something different. And I think he definitely achieved. He didn't want to make a boxing film for the sake of making a boxing film. He wanted to make a boxing film that meant something.
He didn't even want to make this as well, but like early on, it was Robert De Niro came to him, and then he had a drug overdose and nearly died, and he was just like, "I've got to sort my life out. I've got to get back on track." So he made this. Pretty well done.
Quickly before Jimmy makes his point, while we're on Scorsese, I know it's not about Scorsese, but he put everything into this film as well. He genuinely thought this film was going to end his career. So he was surprised by the success. I think, do I have a quote from him? Yes, I do have a quote from him. He referred to this movie as a kamikaze movie. Like that's how much he thought it was going to end his career. And as you can see from like The Irishman, he's still going.
I think the difference between other boxing films of the era and Raging Bull is that Raging Bull is a drama with boxing in it, and those films are sports movies. Raging Bull is as much about what goes on outside the ring as in the ring, easily. But let's talk about Thelma Schoonmaker. Just her achievements are undeniably amazing. Let's bear in mind as well. Look at the mixing setup behind Noah. This is before computers and everything. She had to do all this. You said about it. She had to do all this stuff by hand. It's just absolutely incredible. I don't know where you would even start. Knowing nothing about analog editing, and to do the things she did is and still does are unbelievable. It's really weird to think when editing started in filmmaking, it was seen, horrifically so, as a woman's job, because it was seen as like an admin job, clerical procedure, just assembling the film together. And it's amazing that women like Thelma Schoonmaker and a lot of women before her, even in the 20s and 30s, really showed how much of an art editing can be, and probably made editing what it is. And it's an absolute testament to women like her that they did that, and that they evolved this thing that was sort of thought of as an administration job, and said, no, this is part of the art, an essential part of the art. So well done.
I got another point about how she sort of edits his sort of gaze with women as well.
Yeah,
Go on.
Because his whole attitude is sort of the what's it called, like the Madonna whore complex. It's where you view women as like angels if they're virgins, but the second they're not, you view them as like scum, basically.
Yeah.
And she uses like really good sort of like zooms and sort of like field view stuff to, like, the second one after they get married, it all sort of changes. Like, really excellent use of doing that, and like getting those themes across of his like basic hatred and jealous rage over a woman. It's really good.
It's an interesting film to have such a massive impact in its crafting from a woman, because in a way the main theme of the film is masculinity in crisis.
It is interesting that this film is a destruction movie of this man, Jake, and I think you're right, it's 100% masculinity in crisis, and that's such a topic that, like, even today is struggle to talk about, and yet Thelma is here editing this movie that is so poignant and so so captivating, and I think I think good point.
And I think it raises another really good point, which people may disagree with, but I think it shows you that women can make films about masculinity, and that'd be fine. In the same way, I think you could say men could make films about femininity or femininity in crisis,
as long as it's done in a way that fits the film and doesn't perpetuate a stereotype. I think it can be done. Yeah,
I think so. I think we need to get away, well, I made this too political, but I think we need to get away with thinking, stories can only be told by certain people. I think that loses what cinema is about. Cinema is about saying something that you want to say and doing it with dignity and poignancy and respect, which is exactly what this film does. Martin Scorsese obviously was from a similar background to Jake LaMotta, but Thelma Schoonmaker certainly wasn't.
Yeah.
And she is almost the most integral part of the film's message. So, don't be afraid.
Some more fun facts. Jake LaMotta did actually, the real one, trained Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro did 5 real boxing matches.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he won a couple, didn't he? Apparently, he was really good.
I think he won 3 out of 5 of them. Yeah.
I thought it was like 2 out of 3. But...
She also She also edited. The music video to Michael Jackson's "Bad."
Yeah, I just found out earlier that Scorsese directed that.
So that was all of our picks for this week for International Women's Day, celebrating directors, actresses, films in general, and women in general. Which leads us nicely onto our quiz this week, hosted by yours truly. So I hope they've all brushed up on their women's knowledge.
Oh, yes.
Because they're going to...
Oh, have I?
Right, so welcome to International Women's Quiz.
Yeah,
I love women.
So the way it's going to work is there are 15 questions in total. The first 5 are just general women throughout history. And then questions 6 to 15 are all about women in film. And then you'll either have 2 options or 3 options, depending on the question. And this will just correspond to how many fingers you show. So if you want to go with answer 1, answer 2, 2, or answer 3. Make sense?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I can count it.
Are we ready for the first question?
Hells yeah.
Get into it. Let's go.
So question number 1 is, Amelia Earhart was best known for what? Number 1, becoming the first woman to sail solo around the world, or number 2, becoming the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. We've all gone for number 2, and you would be correct. It is number 2. She was the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic.
She had the mysterious death, didn't she? Or
she did.
She went missing.
Question number 2, Helen Sharman was the first British what? Number 1, neurophysicist, or number 2, astronaut?
I'm gonna wing it. Do that.
I might go a bit different.
Okay, so we've got 2 for astronaut, 1 for neurophysicist. She was an astronaut.
Oh,
Yeah, see, now being different doesn't get you anywhere.
There's a lovely picture of her.
so you.
Like last week.
Yeah.
Question number 3. Scientist Rosalind Franklin was a pioneer in the study of what field? DNA or radioactivity? We're all going for DNA? That is correct. She was a pioneer in DNA. Lovely little picture.
Well done.
For 3 white men, we know a lot about women.
Okay. Question
We're only
number
3
4.
questions in, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Ada,
On a 50-50 question.
Ada Lovelace was the first female what? 1 journalist, 2 computer programmer. We've all gone from computer programmer. And
Playing
that
it
is
safe.
correct.
Yeah.
And there she is with working her little tables
He's
out.
just copying us.
You're behind, Noah.
I know.
Question number 5. This is the last one for general female. So Mary Anning was famous for what? Fossil hunting or clay pot throwing? So you know where you make them.
Throwing. I'm gonna go for number 2 because clay pot throwing seems way too specific.
Ah, you did. We have a
Anyone
fossil.
Anyone want to change?
Yeah, I have faith.
Okay, the answer is she was a fossil hunter.
There you go.
Yes.
So question 6. The first ever woman director was Alice Guy Blanchet when she directed her first film, La Fille Auguste. Yeah. But was it directed in 1, 1896, 2, 1907, or 3, 1916? And I put it in a nice timeline for you so you can see.
Oh,
Nice bit of design work there.
it's beautiful.
I'm very suspicious of 1907 being in a different font.
No, I just couldn't format it.
That's right.
I'm gonna take the plunge and I'm gonna go number 2.
2, number 1.
Okay, number 1 as well.
Number 1. So number 2 number 1s, 2 number 2s. It was number 1. So that's a
Yeah.
Behind.
Jimmy.
I thought, women probably picked up the camera just as soon as men did, because
Yeah. But classic misogynistic James couldn't think.
she's French, presumably.
Yeah. Question number 7. Which of the following has not appeared in a film adaptation of a Shakespeare play? Number 1, Claire Danes. Number 2, Katharine Hepburn. Or number 3, Kate Winslet.
Bloody hell.
I'm gonna go 2 again.
I think you might be right.
I concur.
I certainly couldn't name a Katharine Hepburn one.
Yes, you are correct. She has not been in one. So that's a point for everyone.
Also,
She'd be quite good in one.
she would have been. Another amazingly strong female.
Absolutely, yeah. Question number 8. In what 1973 movie does Barbara Streisand stand out as a leader in the Young Communist League and go on to protest against McCarthyism and the bomb? Number 1, Funny Girl. Number 2, On a Clear Day You Can See the Forever. Or 3, The Way We Were.
I've not seen any of these films.
No.
Interesting.
Barbara Streisand. I know her from the Wall-E soundtrack.
Why that?
She did that. Put on your Sunday clothes. There's lots of world out there.
You're not wrong.
So what are we going for?
I'm gonna
1,
go.
2, or 3?
That sounds like the most plausible name for a film of that.
I have to agree.
I'm gonna go 1. I'm gonna be.
Never be different, James.
Well, I mean,
The answer is 3.
my terrible.
And
Terrible
there's
choice.
Robert Redford. Oh, it is.
It's Sidney Pollack. Right, okay.
Right. Question number 9. Who is the only female director to have won an Academy
know
Award
this.
for Best Director?
I
1,
think-
Catherine
I
Bigelow.
think.
2, Sofia Coppola. Or 3, Ava DuVernay.
Is he really not? Oh, what did she win it for, though?
Or
It's shocking only one woman has ever won it.
it is that. I didn't know that. That is shocking. I'm going to change my mind.
Oh yeah.
I think I know what film it is. I thought it was another film.
I think it's. What was it? I'm gonna go 2.
So the answer is number 1, Catherine for the
Right.
Hunt.
That's the only one I know. I know for certain.
I thought it was
Coppola must have won for like screenplay then or something. I know she definitely won something.
She was definitely nommed at least.
Is it the Virgin Series?
She won. She won.
Did she? Well, this was for
Virgin Series
for best director though.
Yeah, obviously not that one.
I wish I'd stuck with myself.
All right. Question number 10. Who won the 2015 Academy Award for Best Film Editing? 1,
Cool.
Marianne Brandon. 2, Sandra Adair. Or 3, Margaret Sixel.
Are you allowed to tell us what the film was
No.
or not? Okay.
That'll be too obvious.
It's
I am.
I like the first name, so I'm gonna go with that. No.
I always complain as a screenwriter that no one ever knows who screenwriters are, but editors definitely have it worse.
I'm gonna go 2 as well. I think.
I'm going to risk
You
it.
can
Yeah.
Oh, no
Ooh.
points this round. It is Margaret Sixel.
Oh.
Mad Max Fury Road.
Of course it. She deserves that. Well done.
Yeah, agreed. So,
Great.
question 11. Who won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 2019? 1, Pippa Harris. 2, Kwak Sanne. Or 3, Jeno Topping.
No topic. That's a cool name. Yeah, that's what I think the film
I
is.
think because initially I was gonna go 2 for Parasite,
Right,
but that was
ignore that.
2020.
Ignore that. It's supposed to be 2020.
Oh,
Oh, so it'll be Parasite.
hey!
That just gave away the answer. God damn it.
My bad. That was a typo. But yes, Green Book did win. So you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
My-
points for everyone.
My best friend.
Points for everyone.
My best friend from MA went to film school with the son of this director.
Wow, Bong Joon-ho.
Yes. His son's
Hey.
called Bong.
Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Junior Ho.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. So moving on to question number 12. Who won the Academy Award for Best Sound Mixing in 2010? 1,
God.
Laura Hirschberg. 2, Anna Belheimer. Or 3, Mary H. Ellis.
Right, I'm gonna have a guess what the film is. Does anyone want to take
I'm
part?
gonna go 3 as well, Jimmy. Yeah.
I don't know what the film is. 2010.
Could it have been like Inception, maybe?
Could be a Scorsese. It could be a Nolan. Yeah.
You also got to remember that like most of the films that came out like for these Oscars came out the previous year.
Hmm.
So it would be 2009 films.
Oh, it might be Hurt Locker then.
Yeah, maybe.
I thought it was maybe Shutter Island, but
I'll go for the top one. I don't know why.
Okay, so we've got one of. Oh, James is 3. Jimmy's 3. Okay, so it was Laura.
oh,
Oh, I'm bloody right about the film as well.
bloody!
So Noah has caught up. We're at a draw.
No, we're not, are we?
Yeah, I'm going
Not
for
finished
3 in
yet,
a row.
We're not
3 in a row.
He's
Jimmy's
got-
gonna lose, and he's gonna go home.
There she is holding her Oscar
Well
for
done.
sound mixing. So,
Well,
question number 13. Who won the Academy Award in 2015 for Best Visual Effects? 1, Suzanne M. Benson. 2, Pamela Easley. Or 3, Sarah Bennett.
I've got to rep the surname, haven't I?
I'm just going to.
I'm just gonna copy.
It's the opposite of me. You're probably going to be right.
It
Yeah.
is number 3 for Ex Machina, which Jimmy, I
Well
think
deserved.
that will have upset you.
She's
So-
my cousin. No,
Jimmy
she's
and
not.
Noah are still tied, coming up to final ones.
Ooh.
Question number 14. Who won the Academy Award for Best Writing for an Adapted Screenplay in 2005? Diana Ossana,
Hmm.
Robin Swisscord, or Emma Thompson?
I don't know what the film is. I'm guessing, but I just like
I
Emma
thought you were
Thompson.
complaining people don't know screenwriters.
Yeah, people don't.
Got 3 as well.
So,
I know
For
Emma
the sake of it, I'll go number 2.
She's more of an actress, so, as far as I know.
well,
It might could be Stranger Than Fiction.
unfortunately, nobody was right. It was Diana Ossana
Oh,
for Brokeback Mountain. And there she is with her with an
Dead
award.
heat again.
Another example of female writing about male stuff.
Okay, so I believe this is the final question. Who won the Academy Award for Best Original Score in 2019?
Flipping Noah.
Johanadottir, Rachel Portman, or Mika Levy?
No,
Is this for
I know it. I think.
definitely for 2019? Just so we
Yes.
know.
No, Jimmy, you gotta go for something different.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
No. You just said you know it.
It
Oh.
is Hilda Gontendottir for Joker. And there she was with an Emmy as well.
Jimmy needs. I'm not having that. Jimmy didn't get it.
I passed two, you twat. Shut up.
We have a tie, so we're going to have to do another tiebreaker, aren't we?
Oh.
Yeah.
So I said Jimmy had to go for something different.
Yeah, so you,
Let me...
is it a three-way tie?
So, are you ready for the tie break?
I was born ready, mother lover.
Yeah.
I'm not,
So-
because I won't win, but
So for the
Bare
tie
knuckle
break,
backstreet.
you have to tell me who said these famous lines. 1 point for a character, 1 point for an actress. So, tie break 1 is you've always been crazy. This is just the first chance you've had to express yourself.
Yeah, Jimmy, go first then.
I'm gonna say Thelma of Thelma and Louise fame. Gina Davis. I might have got that the wrong way around. She might be Louise.
Alright, I'll go with Louise. And is it Susan Sarandon, the other one?
Okay,
Alright,
so
there we go.
it is Louise.
Is it me?
oh my god, that's great.
So Noah wins, but we can also do tie break 2 if you want as well.
No, I won.
I can't believe it actually was. That's so
Tie
funny.
break 2 was if you're going to let one stupid prick ruin your life, you're not the girl I thought you were.
How annoyed you were about the Joker question. I am 10 times more annoyed about that one.
I love the fact that Noah just held back and then you went first.
Such was my lack of confidence.
So does anyone want to have a crack at the other one just for fun?
Oh, I ain't got a clue.
No, I don't want to
No.
say this. It'll be right.
Noah can go first. And
It was Professor Stormwell from Legally Blonde.
Oh, I definitely wouldn't have got that. I was going to say Greece.
So congrats winner, which is Noah. You won the tie break. So king of tie breaks this month, isn't it?
Yeah.
Happy International Women's Day.
Go up against me in a tie break. You'll regret it.
All by yourself, that one, mate. Well done.
oh god, that's such a funny ending. Jesus Christ.
Bastard.
It's just because it literally could have been anything, and then Jimmy just goes Thelma and Louise, and then Noah takes the other option.
You
And
were
he
so
gets it.
by your indecisiveness as well.
So Noah, that means for I don't know, is it the 3rd week in a row you get to do winner's thoughts?
Thanks everyone. I couldn't have done it without Jimmy's answer, but that sort of helped a lot. Unlucky, Jimmy. You were nearly there.
Thanks.
That's all I've got to say.
But yeah, so happy International Women's Day. We've been 4 struggling filmmakers. As you can see, all of us apart from Noah are going to continue to struggle, especially in tie breaks. You guys continue to stay safe. And yeah, we've been 4 struggling filmmakers. Bye.
It's 4 struggling. We've got energy today. This is a terrible thing.